Facebook and live on Instagram. Okay, I think we're live on both.
Yeah, it says live. Okay.
We're live on both. I'll do the upload for YouTube later. And we will, since we're on borrowed time with you guys. Start the clock. Okay. Good evening, guys. Good evening. I hope everybody is doing well. We're doing, tonight is kind of like an open forum, and we're excited to share all that's kind of been happening. We're excited to share all that's been happening. And so what's coming to you guys tonight is a part of what's going to be coming to you guys in the future. And we've been kind of working on this in the background, and we're finally at a place where we can do our first episode. So we're doing a podcast, and it'll be a family podcast, and it'll be kind of like an open forum discussion, and we're going to kind of introduce ourselves tonight, introduce the podcast tonight also, and then tell you guys why and what it was like to move to Texas. Like, I know a lot of people have been waiting for this one to find out why we moved to Texas, what's going on. And so we'll discuss that tonight as well. We'll also tell you guys a couple of things that's been happening in the background, and make some exciting announcements tonight also. And so we'll start with Miss Sophia. Just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
I'm Rashawn. And I'm Danny.
Everybody knows Brandon. A lot of people haven't met our kids yet, and so we'll start by kind of talking about what called us to Texas. We're gonna dive right in. So usually I wait like 10 minutes for everybody to kind of hop on. We didn't make any announcements about going live tonight. It just kind of happened because we all had our schedules open for tonight. So I was like, let's just take advantage of it, and it's happening. So I'm on borrowed time with this crew. So we get an hour tonight, and so we're just gonna jump in. So if you jump in halfway through tonight, it's only an hour, and if you jump in halfway through, you'll have to watch it on rewind, okay? We're only live on Instagram and Facebook tonight. We have, like I said, we're gonna be live on Spotify. So this episode, you'll be able to listen to it on Spotify as well. We'll give you all the details to that at the end. And YouTube also, you'll be able to watch it on YouTube as well. We'll have little clips on TikTok and stuff like that, but fully on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram tonight. And then you can listen to it again on Spotify down the road. Anyways, so let's talk about Texas, guys.
Woo.
Now, it started with me having a conversation with the Lord last October. I literally went on a walk, and I told you guys in my last episode, I went on a walk, and during this walk, it was a 4-mile walk at that. Yeah, I would be gone like 2 hours?
Yeah, longer than that, sometimes it'd be 3.
Sometimes 3 hours.
It's not a walk, it's a marathon.
It's a marathon. So I went on this walk, and on this, it like Brandon said, it used to be like 2 hours or 3 hours walk back in Lake Mary. I used to just go for walks. And on this walk, something changed. For the first time, the voice of God became audible for me. This was the first time in my life where I actually heard an audible voice speaking to me. And at first, I thought I was going crazy. At first, we all thought something was wrong, right? And so I went to the doctor because it wasn't just hearing this audible voice, it was audible voice. It was also seeing these flashes of lights and different things. And so at first, we thought something was seriously wrong. Like I thought maybe I had gotten a brain tumor. I thought maybe, I needed mental health. And so I did all the things. They tested me for drugs. They tested me for different STDs because sometimes, and I'm just being transparent, sometimes they said certain STDs can cause brain issues. And so they tested me for the works. And, we got an MRI done to make sure nothing crazy was going on. So when I tell you I was tested. And so all the results came back absolutely normal. Everything was green across the board. And so what I started to do then was I started to record in the house, because in the old house we had a little camera, and we started to capture the things that I was seeing on camera. And I have shared some of this stuff in my previous videos with you guys. Some of this stuff I haven't shared publicly because some of it is a little bit cray-cray. And so we didn't share everything, but we did share some. And so tell me, you guys, about like your experience of seeing some of the things that I've shared with you, that when things started to go from like, oh, mom's not crazy, mom's not having an episode or nothing, but this is actually really happening. Tell me about y'all's experience when that shift happened for you guys.
For me, it was definitely eye-opening, because I'm not gonna lie, I did think you were crazy, and still sometimes, even though you're my mom, I do think you're a little crazy.
Well, that's expected, I'm a mother, right?
But, yeah. But seeing some of the stuff on the Ring camera, things that you really can't explain, it kind of is like, dang, maybe some of the stuff she is saying is true. And then having the different things that you said to me, or the things that you would predict before they would happen, like years in advance, or a year, or months in advance, it kind of allowed me to be like, take a step back and be like, okay, maybe what she's talking about is true. Now, for me, as someone who likes to have a scientific mind, or wants to try to come up with reasonable explanations for things, it's kind of hard to come up with that when you really you can't find an explanation for that, right? Seeing a glowing orb on a Ring camera, you can't explain that as the light hit it a certain way when it's dark outside, right? So you kind of, and it was moving around. Right. So it's kind of hard to push an explanation over top of something you really don't know. Right. So for me, it kind of just was a little eye-opening and allowed me to understand more of what was happening. Yeah. Especially coming from a teenage kid. Right. And I think that's like huge, because us moving to Texas, and I'm kind of giving this backstory because it leads up to why we moved, right? But us moving to Texas for you guys was a big decision for Dad and I to make too. And it was like all these things, right? Because you guys are a teenager, and all this stuff is happening to your mom, happening to your lives, and it's like, what are you talking about? So that's a great point. What about you, Sil?
I don't know. I saw on the little, house camera, and like on inside, and there was like feathers falling from the ceiling. I was like, that's a little bit weird. That was like, I don't know. That was like the part where I was like, okay, maybe mom's not crazy.
That was the big one.
Yeah.
I didn't share that with the world. I only share that with a few select people that God had ordained me to share. But it's okay. But that was a big moment, because you can't explain that, kind of like what brother said. Like, there's no rationale to explain why there's feathers falling from my ceiling on a camera. Like, where are they coming from? Why are they there? And so that's a great point. Daddy, what about you?
I think I've been immersed in your gift. No, honestly, because I've been immersed in this since the time we've met. It's been almost 18 years. And you know, there were smaller things that she would say to me in Okinawa that would kind of trip me out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would chalk it up to like, all right, whatever. She's got a quirk, whatever. She's pretty. I'll deal with it. But as we got married and we started to progress in life, I realized that the bigger decisions were being made off of what you heard. A lot of people know the backstory from California.
Yeah.
You know, our backstory in California, we were on base and we were like, we have to buy a house. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. You know, like, we got to do it because you want a house now. And it was never about you wanting a house, because we transitioned to buying our house at the very lowest. Everybody in our neighborhood was paying almost $6,000 a month, and we got the home for almost nothing.
Right.
And we moved. The same thing when we were about to leave. You said, Brandon, we got to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? Like, this is our home.
Yeah.
But a lot of catastrophic things occurred in that year. And again, we got to Lake Mary, and again, it was the pandemic hit. And our friends in California had been much harder than we did. And Lake Mary was a sanctuary for us to kind of recalibrate.
Yeah.
And I think during that time, we started to really, really dive deep into what was going on with you, with our family, kind of really understand where we stood with God, I think, essentially, because we were battling back and forth with who we were, what we believed in, not just as an individual, but as a family. So when we transitioned to Texas, you brought it to me in October and said, hey, look, and I said, listen, our kids are about to graduate high school. You know, they're just settled in 5 years later with all the chaos that we had with my daughter and, you know, our daughter and our son. And there was just so much going on. And October came. He said, we got to move. I fought about it, honestly, for a little bit.
And I'm going to interrupt you for a second here, because I think that that's a great point. You kind of see the growth over the years, where now it's like, we know this is a gift. We know that this is God working through our lives, when previously it was kind of like whimsical, like you said, where it's like, oh, well, she's going off the instincts or you know, like a
gut feeling.
A gut feeling. But it was so much more than that back then, because I think that the point you made when we bought the house in California, that was a dream. Like, I had a dream that we had to do this in that moment. And that was kind of like the catalyst for the rest of our lives. That was like this starting domino effect for the rest of our life that just kind of like made these other things happen that prosper us in such a huge way.
Yeah.
Same thing with California. I had a dream. You know, when we went back to California to visit our friends, everybody was like, why did you guys leave? Why did you guys leave? You know, and we started to tell them the truth. We left because I had a dream. Yeah. I had a dream that, you know, I was standing in the middle of Walmart, and I actually have this written down in my journal, and I dated it with a pen, but I had a dream. I was standing in the middle of Ralph's grocery store and then Walmart parking lot, and when I was in Walmart, a gentleman came up to me and he actually told me that COVID was coming and that I needed to leave, and that was in 2018. And so in 2018, I have a journal account of me actually using this word COVID that at the time I had no idea what it meant. And then initially we didn't pay much attention to the Walmart in the parking lot and this COVID word. We just kind of ignored it and moved on. But fast forward to December of 2018, I have another dream, and this dream pushed me to say, no, we got to go. We have to leave California. And so we ended up leaving, and 6 months later, COVID hits, and I was blown away. I was actually scared at the time, too, because I didn't understand what was happening. I was like, am I like a fortune teller? Am I like telling the future? Like, what's happening here? Because I actually had that word written down, COVID. And so when I had that written down, we were both kind of like, something's happening. We didn't really pay much mind to it at the time, but we kind of, Brennan and I kind of like felt like, okay, there's something shifting and there's something different happening inside of myself. And then, like he mentioned, the growth and this progression in the gift that God gave me, you could kind of see it as we journeyed, because we get to Lake Mary And it was really just like you said, it was like this reset moment where it was like God was taking our family to say, now we're going to lay the cards and you're going to do what's important. And you have to decide now if you're going to step into your purpose. And then in October, when I came to him, I went to Brandon first. So I'm walking. Let's get back to me walking. I'm walking, and I audibly hear the Lord tell me, you have to move. And he told me, he said, 5 years. You have to move in 5 years. Those are the words that I kept hearing. And then I was like, then inside of me, I started to ask questions. I started to say, move where? Like, why am I moving? Like, why 5 years? What's going on? And then as I questioned the Lord, again, I heard the voice and it said Texas or Delaware. And I was like, okay. And so Brendan and I have a conversation. We actually sit down and we have a conversation. I told him everything on the walk. And I said, hey, I heard these things, these specific words. And he said, well, let's make a trip up to Delaware and see what we think about Delaware. We did, and it really wouldn't have fit our family or our lifestyle. So we ruled out Delaware immediately. And so fast forward to January. I mean, I'm just being honest, right?
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't fit our family. So then we fast forward to January. Now I'm still walking. I'm walking this past still 3-4 hours, 2 hours some days. And we're walking and God is still talking to me. And some things I'm sharing with Brandon. I haven't introduced the kids to anything that was happening yet, but some things I'm sharing with Brandon. Well, the crazy part was, as I'm having this discussion with the Lord from October to January, there are other things that start to happen. I spoke with a pastor, a friend of ours, and he starts to ask me questions if we had ever considered moving to Texas. And I was like, why are you telling me that? And he started to, tell us and share with us too, that the Lord had revealed to him that we had belonged in Texas. And so now it was like all ears. And so I have a deeper conversation with the pastor, and after we have this conversation, it became very apparent that the Lord was calling us to Texas. So then I sat down with the entire crew, and we had a very serious conversation. We had tears. We had all of it. We sit down, and at this point, now I revealed to them everything, because I had a dream of me being over the United States. And as I was hovering over the United States, God brought me into the state of Texas. And at first we thought we were going to Houston. Houston made sense to us because our friend that's a pastor, he has a church and he started a church. And so we were like, okay, well, God's calling us to go to this church and help out. And it made sense to go to Houston. But in this dream that I had, God didn't bring me to Houston. He brought me over San Antonio. And he had Houston X'd out with a great X. And I was like, with a red X, with a great big red X. And I was like, what? I panicked. And I came and I told Brandon, I think I told you guys too, right? Did I tell you guys? Do you remember?
Some point down the road. Some point.
Yeah. So I shared with them, I said, hey, at this point, I was very hesitant because we had already started to look at houses in Houston. We already had somebody set up to go to Houston and see houses. We had literally put all of our eggs in the Houston basket at that point, and it made sense. God was calling us to Texas to go help this pastor build his church. And that's not what God revealed to me in this dream. And I was like, I'm not telling Brandon this. He's going to lose his crap on me. He's going to be like, first of all, we're already having a hard time moving, right?
Yeah,
how was that for you guys
Oh, God.
to hear that we were moving? Truly. Womp, 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 womp. Well, let me ask it like this. Knowing that it was God that was calling us to move, how was this one different than anything else that we've
made
ever
it more
done?
hesitant.
It made it
more hesitant.
Yeah.
I'll be 100% honest.
Yeah.
Because at that point in our life, especially for me, right, being a Christian, we obviously believe in God. I believe in Him. I always have, and I always will. Obviously, you have those doubts as a person because you're human. But I always have, and I always will.
Yeah.
But up to that point, that hasn't been something introduced to my life that, hey, this person you can't see, hear, speak to, that will respond to you right away, is telling us that we need to pick up everything that we've ever known, especially right before you're about to go into your senior year and put everything on the line because he said so.
Right.
Right. So especially coming from me, it's going to give me a little bit of hesitation to go and do something like that.
Right.
Because I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
He's not talking to you.
No, he's not
right.
talking to me.
Right. You're not hearing him audibly.
No,
it's like,
I'm not.
Okay, mom.
Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, all right, bud. I'm not hearing it from him. If it would have been one thing if I was sitting there like hearing the same thing for verbatim what you were saying, like, oh yeah, that's 100% accurate. We need to move right now.
Right.
But I didn't hear him, and I still haven't heard him the way you have.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I've heard him and I've spoke with him, right?
Yeah.
Which we all have, but I haven't had that conversation like you did. So it's hard for me to go off of what you were saying, especially going into the senior year.
Right.
But I mean, definitely.
Saying that, what made you trust the process so much more then? Because you came to a consensus, right? We all, for those that don't know, we actually sat down and we kind of took a vote as a family if this would be the best thing for all of us, and we all voted that it would be.
Yeah.
So what made you, not being able to hear the Lord and just going off of what you would call blind faith or, right, trusting that God is truly talking through me? What made you come to that consensus when we were voting to say, I'm voting to go?
Definitely it was, even though y'all irritate me, but you're my parents, I'm still going to trust what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to trust you. You've said a lot of the stuff in the past that's kind of been like, that's weird. I don't know why that's happening. It's weird that she's saying that. And then it happens. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where I heard that from.
Okay.
Right? So it kind of was like a blind-ish faith. Right? It was faith more than anything, but it was kind of a little bit of guided faith per se, right?
Because you had confirmation previously.
Exactly. So it was kind of like, okay, this is kind of what you were saying. On top of that, baseball is another reason I wanted to go. Going into senior year, I have my friends, right? And I'm lucky and fortunate enough they're coming to see me soon. So I'm not too worried about it, right? But
you just feel like there was more opportunities here.
Because baseball out there just wasn't going the way it should have for me, and the way I wanted it, more or less.
Yeah.
And if
kind of like a fresh start.
Yeah, and if that means I have a fresh start and the possibility of playing collegiate baseball.
But what did you learn? What did you learn when you got here about schools? Because we were immersed in Embry-Riddle was kind of your first choice, and then we get here and you find out what about Texas A&M?
That they have the exact same things as Embry-Riddle, and their baseball team is way better.
And they're more versatile in engineering programs. They have all engineering programs.
Yeah.
Right? Which Embry-Riddle does, but it's not just based around engineering, right?
So it's like God had a better plan. It's kind of like that teddy bear scenario, right, Daddy? Where it's like, I have something bigger and better for you if you just trust me. And so that's a good point that Daddy just made. And we'll get into more of like the benefits to what God revealed to us as we were here. But your blind faith wasn't really blind then, because it sounds like you have had previous experience with my words and God working through me that kind of confirmed to you, I might want to just kind of trust this process.
Yeah, but I'd still give it more or less blind faith, solely off of I couldn't hear it. I couldn't see it. All I had to do was just hope and pray that you were right.
But it wasn't me that would have been right. It would have been you trusting God.
Yeah.
Because I'm just a human. I'm nobody, right?
Just a vessel.
I'm just a vessel.
So I mean, I don't know, but it was definitely a tough thing to
make that decision,
especially going into senior year, because it was kind of like this is my last year. I don't have a lot of time, and I have this, and this to do. And on top of that, I'm leaving everybody I knew.
Yeah. And
I got to put myself in an uncomfortable situation again, just because I needed a different chance, another opportunity, and a start fresh. So, and a new start, right? So it was kind of a tough decision, but it was a decision that I had to make for myself, and you guys had to make for us.
Right.
Right? So it's
Right.
kind of along those lines.
Thank you for sharing, bud. What about you, Sophia? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
You gotta speak up because the cameras are kind of far. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know. It's hard because when you're in high school and all your friends go to different high schools, it's kind of like it's already a struggle to be as close as we usually were, like maybe in middle school or something like that. But I don't know. It was just like, it was tough. I was very like protesting it, signs outside your window, like throwing rocks. Like
You're like, I'm not doing this.
yeah, kind of like
I
that.
don't want any
Like,
part of it.
I think I said I was going to chain myself to the door. Like,
Yeah.
it was crazy. But I think the whole, like, decision was like, well, I don't plan on going against God, especially when he's speaking so clearly to you. I was like, I'm good. I don't feel like testing all that. But, like, I don't know. I'm excited because I get to, like, try again at a new school. Like,
That's such a great point that you made, because I think that was Dad and I's. I think the thing that kept coming up for Dad and I was like, have we exhausted everything in this city? And I think that it was true for all of us. Like, we felt like we had exhausted everything we needed to exhaust there as far as growth spiritually and physically for our family.
Yeah.
What about you, Daddy?
I think that there was so much going on during that time. I was being blessed undercover,
Yeah.
I guess, that I didn't share with anybody because I felt like it was something for my family to cherish,
Right.
for all the support that they provided for me, and
Right.
the backstory to how I got there was, again, for my family.
Right.
I was excited. I knew what Texas to hold. I traveled here often. I like the culture. I love the people. I think there was just much larger opportunity to reach people within the community for specific purposes, which I'm sure we'll get into here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But, my biggest hesitation was our children.
Yeah.
I, as any parent would know, you don't want to watch them suffer and be in anguish because of the decision you made and it be the wrong decision.
Yeah. That's a good point, Daddy.
So I think that the teddy bear scenario, I think I've said it to you a million times.
Yeah, you have.
It's letting go of the smaller toy to get the larger toy. And again, this isn't materialistic. It's just
Trusting.
it is literally an analogy to say you got to let go and let God, and that's the hardest thing for anybody to really do.
Yeah.
And my mom was a big predominant believer in let go and let God. So I got a lot of that from her. But I do know that it was really, really tough. I think I was swallowing nails until we pulled up to the house. And when we did, it was that.
That relief. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I could see it on everybody because the
Everybody's face.
excitement came back. It just made our decision for me solidify. Like, okay, this was good.
Yeah.
This was right.
So that's a great point. And we're going to talk a little bit about the sigh of relief when we got here, because there were so many signs that this was God's plan, right? Along the way. Along the way, there were so many signs that it wasn't me anymore, and there was something greater happening than me just speaking, that God called us to Texas.
Yeah.
Let's just start with the fact that we got to list the house, okay? So we go to list the house for sale, and we had came up with a number, like in order for us to sell this house and end up in a really good position, we had to sell the house for a really high price. And at the time, that the market wasn't calling for this number, okay? We were literally shooting our shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to Brandon because the Lord had revealed to me that you were stressing out, like really stressing out about all the details that was going to have to transpire in order for us to head to Texas.
Well, there's a lot of hesitation there because I was talking to my neighbors and I was trying to gather as much information as I possibly could. And when we stated the number, they kind of chuckled.
Right.
They were like, "You want to do what?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, it'd be great if X, Y, and Z occurred." And they were like, "Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the panic set in because, you know, my neighbors had done this. I felt like the realization was to come forth and say, yeah, you're
Let's
not
be
gonna,
realistic.
your timeline isn't what you're going to make
Yeah.
it.
Because listen, guys, this is January. We're having this conversation. The house is needs to be sold by March,
Yeah.
right? So you're talking about listing a house and selling it by March. And then there were a lot of stipulation in order for us to get to Texas. We wanted to make sure that the kids could finish we talked to the kids, and the kids wanted to finish their year at school at Lyman. So that was one of the things, was we got to sell the house by, no later than April 1st, April 4th, the first week of April.
First week of April.
But we wanted to have the house sold for a specific number. We also wanted the person that bought the house to rent it back to us so that we could stay in the house so that the kids could finish their school year. Oh, by the way, we had chickens. We can't forget the chickens.
No, you cannot.
And so the new owners had to be okay with us keeping our chickens at the house. And there was just like this laundry list of things that really needed to happen for this to work the way it needed to work. We needed to sell the house. Then after we sell the house, take a trip out to Texas to buy the new house so that Brandon and I could have everything established so that once the kids are out of school, we could just move into the house. And when I tell you that it went exactly like that, we were blown away. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Somebody came and bought the house for the exact price we wanted to sell the house for. Not only did they sell us the house, they didn't need to move into the house until the beginning part of June. And so they were like, if you guys would like, we could rent the house back to you if that's okay with you guys.
Yep. And then I kind of spoke up and I was like, man, they're going to charge us an arm and a leg. Most people charge anywhere between $115 to $130 a day. It's like a motivation thing to get you out of there sooner than later.
And the doubt set in.
Yeah.
Brandon, the beautiful thing about it was like, Brandon had all this doubt initially because it's like, I'm asking for all these things, and how is this ever going to happen? How is this ever going to work out in our favor? How is any of this going to go according to our plan? And when you start to talk to people outside of our family or outside of God's plan, they tend to have a different view. And so their view tend to set in, and you get doubts. You gain doubts, and you start to question everything. And that's kind of what happened a lot with Brandon. Yeah. He got a lot of doubt, and along the way, every time he got doubt, it was like God reaffirmed in me that this is what the plan was. And so I would go to him and I would say, I could sense that you're doubting. What is it that's going on? And he would say, just like he just said, they're gonna rent it back to us, but it's gonna cost us 3 times the amount that we were paying for the mortgage, and I don't want to do that. And I would always say back to him, what would I say to you, babe?
I don't really understand.
I would always say back to him, I would say, if God called us to this, he will get us through this. So I would say, what is it?
Look at you with your rap game.
You like that?
I think the biggest thing was
that
I allowed myself to be manipulated by the human aspect of it.
The flesh.
And every single time it would let me down and it would create panic.
Yeah.
But the moment I went to God and said, look, you know what we need. This is your calling. You're calling me to do this. Make a way.
Right.
And no more than I said it was done.
Right.
And I got goosebumps. It still leaves me in disbelief that, our God, I always say it like, my stuff is so minute compared to the world's problems.
Right.
And yet he still takes time to make a way for me and my family, to carry on our purpose for him. But it was just mind blowing that everything fell into place the way it was supposed to. Not only did it fall into place, but it fell into place smoothly.
Yeah.
that was, I think, the only biggest chaotic thing that really truly occurred was that the new homeowners couldn't get in the house. Again, I am sorry for that.
Yeah, that was not our fault. We
but
changed the battery. I think that was just the house kind of like.
not wanting to give it
Yeah,
up.
not wanting to give
Well,
it
we know why now, but
up. Yeah. I think that that's such a great point. When we get into the flesh, everything that comes with the flesh comes with the flesh. And so when God speaks, and I think this is true for not just us, I think it's true for everybody. When God speaks to us, we have our doubts, and doubts bring you back into the flesh. You start to see things back through a carnal mindset. And God says it every time throughout scriptures, he's not flesh, he's spirit. Yeah. And he's leading us through the spirit. And so if we trust him and we believe what he said will be done, God's word doesn't come back void. So once it goes out, that's the end of it. And I think that's the beauty in it too. The beauty in it is that when God says something, it's done. There's a signature on it. He said it, it's happening. We can recant, we can have our doubts, we can backtrack all we want, but God is faithful and he will see it through no matter what we decide to do. Yeah. And that happens so often throughout this transition to Texas. We had so many moments where we were kind of wanting to backtrack, and God was like, you can backtrack all you want, it's already done. I've already done this, right? And was that true for you guys too? Like, was that kind of your experience where it's like, it's happening? Like, I don't care what I do, God has moved everything into place and it's just happening.
Yeah, it was kind of like he laid the foundation and a stepping stone that we had to take. We didn't have an option, because if you try to turn around and walk the other way, there was nothing there. It was just nothing. So you go forward or you just walk back into the void. So it was, you had no option but to go that way.
Yeah.
Right? It was like putting up a house and you just decided you don't want it.
Yeah, and I think you know what is great about that point that you just made, Rashawn, is that we, all four of us, sat down and we thought about what life would continue to be like if we did stay.
Shit.
And it didn't lead, all it led to was comfort. Had we stayed, it would be comfortable. We would live a comfortable life. We would, Brendan and I would get to retirement age and be content. We would take our trips, our annual trips. We would do the basic things that we normally do, and we would have lived a comfortable life. Truly. The kids would have gone to college, and they would have had their family, and they would have grown up, and it would have just been comfortable. And I think that through that process of us kind of like breaking that down, it helped us realize too that it was time to go.
Yeah.
It was time to move, because stagnant water is dead. And I feel like so many people today are living in their comfort in stagnant water. And people can die before they die. That's one way you can die before you're actually dead, is that you sit back in your own comfort, and that's just your life. There's nothing else happening for God. There's nothing else happening. It's just a comfort thing, and it's stagnant. And stagnant water is dead. I don't know a pool of stagnant water that is alive.
I think a lot of people really thrive to be purposeful in life.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, Satan wins. At some point, there's some of those who are just, you know what, I don't have the support, or I'm tired, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm happy where I'm at, I'm comfortable. Comfortability, complacency will kill anybody's spirit.
Yeah.
You stay where you're at and do the same thing, monotonous, over and over and over again. You literally don't realize that you're not being purposeful until it's too late.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we came to. We sat down and we said, how can we be purposeful here? What can we do? And I think we sat there for maybe an hour and a half, really just having no true purpose there.
Yeah.
Other than relationships,
friendships
that we built there, I think as a family we realized, like, hey, we want to be purposeful in God's plan. We want to be a part of God's plan somehow, some way, because here and now, we're not immersed in it the way we want to be.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point too, Daddy. How uncomfortable God makes you when He's ready for you to elevate into His purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Because it got to a point where our comfortability was uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really did.
Right?
Yeah.
That I became comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, God was like, I've given you enough time to rest. It's time to go. And at first I thought this 5-year thing was in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize is it wasn't 5 years from now. It was that I would have been in Florida 5 years. So 5 years in the Spirit is a representation of grace. So God gave us 5 years of grace in Florida to get to where we needed to be in order to move. And at first I didn't understand that. I thought it was 5 years from now where Brashawn and Sophia would be out of school, out of this, and then me and Brandon would be comfortable. And no, God was like, no, I've given you 5 years in Florida. That's 5 years of grace to grow. It is time to go. And it was amazing because we all became uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That house felt like it was closing in on us.
It really did.
Now let's shift a little bit. Go ahead.
Oh, were you going to say something?
No, I was just saying it would have been insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. We would have been sitting there trying to get God to answer our prayers and get God to bless us and keep doing the same thing. And in reality, God would have been like, no, you didn't want to listen to me. Why would I listen to you?
Oh, Rashawn, that's such a great point.
So,
That is such a huge point because so many people do exactly that. And this is why so many people say God doesn't answer prayers. It's not that God doesn't answer prayers, it's that God had aligned you to do something and you didn't carry it out. And now the prayer that you're asking for would have been yours had you taken the steps He called you to do. And I think that was the other thing too, that we all kind of said was like, do we really want to go against what God's calling us to do? Because when the day comes, so not that God wouldn't take care of us, but when the day comes and God's like, well, I told you guys to move and you didn't, so have fun with that.
yeah.
Nobody wanted to answer to that.
No.
That.
Like saying, oh Lord, well, I thought you meant. No, you knew what I meant.
Yeah.
You just were lazy and chose to go against me.
Yeah.
So now here's the repercussion. It wouldn't have been a bad thing. We would have just been comfortable. But I think God has a bigger purpose for us. And He wants to let us know, like, I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And at the moment you kind of understand that and jump with both feet in, things are going to get a lot, even more understandable for what the purpose is to come.
Yeah, I think that that's a great point because as we committed as a unit, the Bible says where 2 or more are in agreement, basically it's done. Like 2 person agreeing is binded. And so when Brandon and I and the kids, all 4 of us, because our parenting style is a little bit different. We like to incorporate our kids in the decisions because it is their lives that we're altering also. And so at the end of the day, we're impacting and changing their lives. And so what they have to say in this household really matters. And so I think that was a big thing too. Like just being able to have this understanding of like, okay, what we do next is going to be impactful and we need to have both of our feet in this decision, all 4 of us. And at first, Sophia was not on board, right? But she kind of shifted and came on board as time went. Sophia, why don't you tell us a little bit about that shift? Because what's funny is things in her life started to become rocky. She was the only one out of the 4 of us who was protesting the plan, and things kind of didn't go like she thought it would. And I think that God kind of highlighted that for her, but I'll let her talk. Go ahead.
I think I was like,
You guys speak up.
I think I was against it even when we got here, like the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When we got here, I was like, man, I hate this place. I want to go home. But I was like, there's no home. Like,
This is one.
yeah, this got to be my home now. I was just thinking about, because me and my friends would always make plans, and I would be able to finally drive my friend. We would drive, because she doesn't have a license, because she's broke. But I was going to drive her.
We're not putting her out there
No.
like that now, so stop it.
I didn't name drop, so.
Well, anyway, talk to us about, like, when we were in Florida, and you were like, I want to stay because of my friends, and my friends this, and my friends that, and then you would have, what, an argument, and what would happen?
I would say this is dumb.
Wow.
I would say this is dumb. I'm not moving. And I'd basically just get mad the entire time. But like, the only shift happened, I think it was here. It was here, I was outside, and it was like nighttime, and I was outside, shut up. And I was in the backyard by the pool by myself with the dog. And she's at the top deck, she's being October, and I was really mad. Like, I can't put words, but like, I was mad. I was like, God, you really done did me like this. Like, you did me so dirty. Like, I was gonna have the best year of my life in high school, and you're like, you messed me up. But I was like, God, if this is truly where we're supposed to be, and I thought of this one time. My mom told me a story about her and my dad, and she's like, make him walk through that door right now. And it's something crazy, right? So I just thought about something crazy to think of, and I was like, all right, let the dog, because she's sleeping, she's upstairs sleeping. I was like, have the dog come downstairs, lay in my lap, my left leg. Like, I was specifying everything, and then I'd give it maybe 2-3 minutes, and this dog walked down and sat on my leg, my left leg. I was like, oh, my bad.
So you tested God, you were like, if this is really so, and he says that, he says, test and see that I am true. So you tested him, and he gave you evidence.
Yeah, because sometimes, like, I hope I'm not the only one that sounds like a crazy person right now, but, like, I always feel like,
You're not crazy, baby.
Well,
Go ahead.
whatever. I just feel like, I usually, like, everything happens to y'all, like, I feel like everything happens to you guys. Like, God will be like, yo, I'm right here. And then when I'm like, God, where you at? He's like, oh, I'm over here. You're not even close. And I'm like looking for
But
it.
you know what, baby? There's so many people out there that can relate to that. There is so many people out there that can relate to not having the experience that I have. That are just like you, where they're like, I've been praying, I've been calling, I've been doing, and I ain't hearing. You know what I mean?
And I just like, and I mean, the only time I actually heard is, I don't even think it's this one, I'll lie to you. But it wasn't him, it was like an angel or something. Or something. And that was like the first time, like, I first had an experience, and I know what everyone's like, you really have to experience it, you can't say nothing about it. So I was like, okay. And like, I asked you about that. I was like, why can't I hear God's voice? How do I know it's not him? And you're like, you're gonna know, bud. Like, I can't explain that to you. And I was like, that's gaslighting. But I
wasn't gaslighting you. It's true. It is something that I can't. It's not tangible. You know what I mean? Like, you have to experience that for yourself for you to really comprehend what I'm even describing.
Yeah. When I heard an angel voice, I thought it was hallucinating. Because I was like, it's late. It was like 10 o'clock.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I was like, I'm tired. It's late. I've been in the, like, what is it called? The airport all night. Like, I'm probably just tired. And it was like, no. I was like, what? Like, it was tripping me out. But like, yeah.
But anyways, so that, I think that's also like, it shows your heart in all of this. Because Dad and I and Brashawn, we tend to be like, once we confirm and once we believe and once we decide, it's over with. Like, there's no going back. And for you, like, not that you're like the oddball or anything, it's just like you bring such a unique experience into our family because it's a real like a realistic thing for you where it's like, I made that decision, but was it the right one? And you kind of like do this back and forth dance with your life and with God. That's beautiful. It's unique to you. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that, you know, and some people do. Some people are like, no, I need like
need like actual proof.
Yeah, I need like actual evidence, and I'm the same way because think about it. Think about. I want you to think about the evidence that God has, the receipts.
Yeah.
I want you to think about the receipts that God has given us because He knows who I am. Like if the curtain kind of moves a little bit, I can explain that all day. I can even explain if my shoe, falls. No, I need actual evidence, Lord. I don't need this like curtain slightly moving.
Like a door opening all the way by itself.
That was
weird. That was so. Oh, it must have been the wind that was
Or like God knows us. And so He knows that we need to, for us specifically, some people out there are okay with the curtain moving a little bit and they'll be happily ever after. We're not those people. Like, I need evidence. I need to know. And I think that that's the beauty in it.
Yeah.
But it's also in having that level of evidence, God is like, if I give this to you, and this is something that He told me. He actually said, if I give you what you need to really know that it's me, you got to do something with this because it's not just for you.
Yeah.
It's not just for you. And there was an agreement where it's like, I understand the assignment and I'm okay with that. If I can witness to the world that you are real, I need to be able to witness first you that you are real.
Yeah.
And so when God was like, yeah, and that's true and it's fair, you can witness that it's me, then you have to do something with it. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about when we came to this understanding that God was sending us to Texas to start a church.
Yeah.
Woo.
Scary.
That was a heavy one. Scary. What do you feel, Sean? If you could, objectify it in one word.
More trash to take out.
More trash to take out. Sophia, what about you?
Just go to church.
Yeah.
I was just like, why did I keep it? Anyways,
More trash. Gosh dang, these people.
that's kind of hard to think about. Cause like,
How do you feel about starting a church and having to sit here and talk and be like a voice for teenage girls? Cringe?
Please don't
Crazy.
ever use that word.
Crazy.
No, I just interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For you, more responsibility?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel all those things too. I was actually really scared too, Daddy. Like, I was terrified because we are not your church type people.
Bold, italicized.
Big, bold, capital letters.
Yeah.
We are not what you would think of when you think of a family that's starting a church or running or operating a church. We're just regular folks that make a lot of mistakes, and we're just following God. Like, there's nothing special. I say this all the time about me. There's nothing that if I was to go out here into the world and say, if I could pick one person that's like the ideal voice of God in the form of a woman, I wouldn't even pick myself because I'm so imperfect. Do you know what I mean? And so when God told me that, I get emotional just thinking about it. It was hard to hear. It was hard to comprehend. I know so many beautiful, amazing women on the island that I believe is more qualified and more fit to be the voice of God to the people. Like, I have never seen myself in that way.
Your qualifications that you're using is flesh-based. God saw you to be the qualified to do this purpose, and I think that is what caused me to stand behind you, because I saw what was occurring and how God was working through you, through your videos. It'd be so annoying, 4 hours long, but the people you were touching, the people that were asking, the ones that you're guiding, and the ones who are coming to God. That's the whole purpose, is for us to come to God, share His word, complete His purpose, so that way we have our rightful seat where it belongs. And a lot of people do it for other things, monetary values, stuff like that. But when you're doing it, you're delivering what you truly are being told with no alternative motive.
Yeah.
It's the truth, and if you take the truth, that's great. If you need elaboration, that's great. I'll take time for you. It's never anything that you see today in I guess, the societal pulpit, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that seeing you do this is what's encouraged me to stand behind you like I am.
I honor that, Daddy. Thank you so much. Like, I really do, because it is hard, and I was terrified, and I was scared, you know, to come to my family and say, hey, just gonna shake your whole life up. It's time to move. You know, it was hard.
And then to say, Lord, where we can get this money from? He said,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. And
I think that was the craziest thing.
yeah.
We come from really humble beginnings. Humble is an understatement.
Yeah.
And so when the bank said, pick a number between $1 million and $1.5 million, I didn't know what to say or do.
I thought she was on the phone with somebody else. It couldn't have been us.
I couldn't believe that our life was about to change in the way that it has. I think that was the biggest thing, and I truly believe that God did it that way for me to really know that He was backing me, right? Because, like I said, and I'm being truthful and very transparent, I don't feel like I qualified to do this job.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I feel very like, I don't even feel like an imposter. I just feel like, who am I to say anything to anybody about God? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I also think that a lot of people don't understand the true backstory of who you've touched so far.
Yeah.
You've done things out of the limelight to help people and guide them, and it's all been on point. It's all probably saved quite a few people, if you're being honest about it. And I don't think that you give yourself enough credit.
Yeah, and I think it makes me cringe to give credit, like to get credit. I know. Is that not the right way to use that word?
It makes me cringe.
It makes me cringe.
Well, you're just thinking of words.
Anyways, I feel like I get like the ick. There's another good word. When people give me any credit, because I already feel like I'm nobody and I don't need any highlight. Like, it's all glory to God, right?
Right. Yeah. But what I'm saying, the credit is not what I'm saying. I guess I should say it better. You're not giving yourself the credit you deserve for the obedience to God. That's the credit that you deserve, because most don't listen.
Yeah.
Most just continue to do their own thing, but the obedience to God has led you to where you're at now.
Yeah.
The credit goes to God entirely, but the obedience to listen.
Yeah.
That's all you.
Yeah. That is true. I can acknowledge that that's true. You know, and even in the obedience, and I think I said it to you yesterday. Was it yesterday we were talking? When I was on the airport to Madrid, how terrified I was. I was really scared because it became, God gave me a timeline on when we would do all these things. And this vacation was kind of like, when it came to an end, was kind of like the starting point to do all the things that God was telling me to.
Yeah.
He gave me up to that point. And so I was literally having a full-blown panic attack because it was like, oh my God, I have to sit down and do this forum with the kids now. Oh my God, I have to open this church. Now I have to do all these things. And it became real. And I actually had a full panic attack. And I told God I wasn't going to do it. I said, I'm not doing this. Pick somebody else. I'm out of here, man. Like, I'm not this person. You got me pegged wrong. And I literally had a panic attack on the airport because I didn't want to come back to America to do any of this. I say this often. I don't like speaking. I don't like public speaking. I don't like doing videos. I don't like people being in my business. I don't like people knowing anything about me. And a lot of the things that I shared is very private. It's very deep stuff. And it kind of sounds crazy at times. And I don't like people seeing me in that light. And so, going back to your point of obedience, like, I've had to be really obedient because God made something apparent to me.
Yeah.
God told me, you don't have to do it. But the day is coming that you will die and you will come face me anyways, and you will answer for that. So make your decision. You don't have to do it now, but you still have to answer for not doing it later. And that was kind of like crippling.
Yeah.
Because for me, there's this next standard I feel like that was raised that I need to carry myself by, because it doesn't matter whether I want to or not, it's okay.
Yeah.
But there's still a standard that was raised for me to have to carry out God's plan, you know. And the other part that was really big for me was God telling me, like, the people that you are supposed to save, the number that's in your hand that you are supposed to save, if you don't save these people, that's on you also.
Yeah.
And it was like, dang, like, now I get out of my own way, not for myself, but for my family and everybody that I need to touch and impact, you know. And I think that that's why, even thinking about myself or getting credit or acknowledgement for being obedient, it's like, it's all God. It's all God leading me that way, you know. So I can relate so deeply with being scared when you find out we gotta go to Texas and start a church. Like, what? You guys too, like Sophia especially, when I told her, I said, you're gonna be the voice for a lot of young ladies in this world. How do you feel about that? She was like, I don't want to be a voice for anybody. And I can relate so hard to that. Like, I don't want to be a voice for anybody. I just want to be my own voice. Let everybody else be their own voice.
Yeah.
I think by you doing what you're doing has allowed us, through your obedience, is going to allow us to be obedient to our calling as well.
Yeah.
This has been probably the hardest thing for my family, our family, to go through.
Yeah.
But what I will say is there's so much more to come. I think, you know, we may even surprise ourselves moving forward with the things that we learn, and really, truly get a full grasp and understanding of what we're supposed to be doing. But I do know that this meeting, this podcast, what do you want to call it, a sit-down, a forum?
A forum, open forum.
Was absolutely necessary, because we've got so many questions why we're doing. People just, I'll be honest with people, just nosy, right? I get it. I'm nosy myself. I love to be nosy. But this was to truly just give you a snippet of what occurred in a synopsis of the last year.
Yeah,
almost a year. And I'm sure that we're moving forward. We're going to do, quite a few of these.
Yes.
Kind of give some insight. I'm sure we're going to take questions, things of that nature we can answer and stuff like that. But
yeah. So yeah, and then it's a lot to try to put into an hour, and our hour's already up. And so today was really just kind of like an introduction to why we are here. There's a lot that's happening in the background. The first is that our ministry is up, and we got it's going to be called, it is the Bread of the World International Ministry, and we're going to have, it is a mouthful. I'm going to have to share how God gave me that name, but next episode. But tonight really was kind of an introduction, so you guys can see our faces, see the kids' faces, because they're going to be a huge part of this process as well. And as we walk forward, I'm excited. I'm excited for what God is doing in our lives. I'm excited for my crew and my support. I'm excited for everybody that's working in the background as well. And I'm excited. We're just excited. We're going to share, we're going to tag in the comments the link to the church, the website. We'll send that to you I'll say probably tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, tomorrow will probably be a better day.
We're also going to, tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to share the podcast, also information for you guys to have. And the church will have it on Instagram, on Facebook, and stuff like that. And so,
And its logo. And its logo.
Oh, yeah.
Can't forget about the symbol.
Yeah,
the logo
you
is
can't forget about
hey,
the logo.
hey, the logo is amazing,
Can't
guys.
forget the
I
logo.
can't wait for you guys to see this. Our amazing son is very gifted in a lot of departments.
Thank you. I know him.
He's very humble.
He is very humble. You see
Yeah.
his graciousness. Do you
Yeah.
see why we're not? I'm telling you, we're not your average
He's
church people.
so humble.
Yeah.
But,
it was all the Lord, guys. It was all the Lord.
It was all the Lord. It was all the Lord.
I don't take any credit. I don't take any credit.
Well, actually, it was the Lord that
All
gave
was.
us the idea for the logo. We'll cover it really quickly, really briefly. So the Lord revealed to us as we were working on this logo that the way the word goes over the cross is actually a basket upside down. And the basket in the center of the cross is the world.
You can't give them all the information. You gotta
Well,
let them see the logo. Well, you gotta let them see the logo and
Well,
then explain the logo.
No, I think we should explain it, and then when they see it, they're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh!"
Well, no, because there's gonna be more questions than you have to answer. You're
It's
like,
a super
well, then why did you decide to do the bread basket? And then why did you decide to put the earth there? And then blah, blah, blah.
Well, the questions will come. Well, explain it. So the wording over the cross is actually an upside down bread basket, and the world in the center is because the bread of the world, the bread falling onto the world, God is the bread. You get it? The word of God. Ooh, it was so deep. It was so deep. The logo was like really deep.
Wow.
And God gave us this revelation for this, and it was pretty amazing. But
Wow.
anyways, when you see it, you'll be like,
show it to you.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so
I saw it.
if you see my amazement, it's only because I truly haven't seen it yet.
he hasn't seen it, so he's gonna be excited when he
Yeah.
see it now that he heard what the explanation is.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really good.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. But it's coming to you guys within this week. You'll have all this information.
Yeah.
So when you guys see the links drop, please share.
Yeah.
Share. Like, comment, whatever. We appreciate your support. Truly, all those people that's been with us from day one in the background, working with us and helping us. I appreciate you guys. Truly, I appreciate you. I give God thanks for you and everybody else that is liking, sharing, and commenting. I appreciate you as well. So as we take this journey together, and I say together, but all of us together,
Yeah.
I hope you guys are excited for what the Lord's doing in our lives and what He's going to reveal to the rest of you guys as well. So God bless you guys, and we'll let you guys get back to your evening. Thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful night. Bye, guys.
Thank you guys.
See y'all.